What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the 11th Island. This is a Thursday. It's 11 o'clock, or it's whenever YouTube gives you this video. We're hoping the algorithm has sent this video your way and you're checking it out because we're going to talk some CFL action. The CFL is back after a year hiatus. We are so excited. We even got season tickets. Now, we're trying to keep this short, so I'm going to kick it over to Brad. Brad, what's going on with this?
Well, first of all, it looks like you're struggling to just shut off the intro music over there because it's just getting louder. There we go. So, big news in Canada. The CFL is back. Like Chris said, they were on a hiatus last year due to COVID. So, the first game will be August 5th between the Hamilton Tiger Cats and Winnipeg Blue Bombers. It'll be in Winnipeg. A rematch of the 2019 Grey Cup being the last CFL game played on, I think, November 26, 2019. That was the last time a CFL game was played. Now they changed their agreement with the players union and the league. There's some amendments to it, like no preseason. There was an agreement to a salary reduction because there's less games this year. It'll be a 14-game regular season opposed to the regular. I believe it's like 18 games they play. It's
they
weird.
play a long season.
Yeah, so they're taking about a 20% pay cut for that. And there's also they've pushed off the Ontario games until later in August. So the first game actually in Ontario will be August 23rd when the Toronto Argonauts host the Winnipeg Blue Bombers it's a Saturday at 4:00. That'll be likely the first sports event in Toronto or Ontario for that matter, professional sports event with fans that aren't like when the Leafs playoff game, they had the vaccinated healthcare workers. This will be actual fans.
Yeah, the rubes. This will be the public, the dirty COVID public.
And like Chris said off the top, we're going to be in attendance. We ponied up. We got seasons tickets for this year. Never had season tickets before. We've been to a few CFL games. I've always really enjoyed it. I mean, if we're not coming off COVID, we're not buying seasons tickets to this. This is I guess life ain't something to play around with. We better get on the fun stuff right away.
Yeah.
So, I mean, for that, I mean, COVID's going to bless you with just being like, whatever, let's do it. Kind of that, not staying on a Saturday night. I'm going out to any party I can go to. So we'll be there. It's going to be...
This guy gets one taste of the Pfizer and he's just like, yo, there's never going to be a Saturday night. I'm not out.
But it's interesting to see, like, hopefully, because the Ontario government, I mean, in Ontario, we have the most amount of people in Canada, just population density. So obviously, the rules here are going to take longer to take effect than, I mean, your BC and Alberta and stuff like that. But the CFL said that they wouldn't come back to play unless they could get at least 35% capacity. By August, I mean, late August too, we should be, I would think, over the 35%. At least outside of Ontario. By then, I think especially the West teams, they're going to be looking at pretty full stadiums. In Ontario, by the end of the regular season in late October, early November, I'm thinking we're probably going to be getting close to full stadiums, but things can turn on a dime, so you never know. So and that's why
you're probably best. There will be a link below. We won't put the link there, but whoever's running the show is gonna hear COVID. The bots are gonna and you'll contact the CDC below to figure out what the heck is going on. But carry on, Brad.
Yeah, well, I just think I think there was a lot of scare for a lot of people in Canada that the CFL wasn't going to come back, that they weren't going to survive this, because this isn't like an NFL or an NHL, NBA type of league. They truly needed the fans, and they are not they're not rolling in it. Like, obviously they're a professional sports team, so they have a lot of money, but they're kind of a year to year. A lot of these teams, some of the owners are almost losing money. They're almost in it for the love of the game type of thing. And without the fans, even that's why they said they wouldn't come back without 35% capacity. There's reporters have said teams are still going to be in the red this year. They're not doing good. This is just to get back on the field. Yeah. So it's almost a lot can still go wrong. Right? But the fact that the concrete plans and games are going to happen is a good thing. I think if COVID kind of makes a strong comeback, it could, in the league gets derailed, especially if it gets derailed about halfway through, that could almost be the death blow.
Well, it's even forget about last year not playing for a whole year. If you're allowed, if we're saying, okay, we need at least 35% to make this happen, so you're getting 35% of your usual ticket sales, you're not paying 35% to keep the lights in the stadium on. You're paying close to 100%. So,
Hmm.
I mean, this is not a comeback year per se. Like, this is not a year where we say, okay, it's all fixed, and if we can just have the opening weekend and we can get through opening weekend and push forward, we're going to be like, it's the miracle where everything is suddenly fine. It's okay, we got to survive week by week here and try to get to a point where
Hmm.
we're healthy financially again. So I think for the fans, it's going to be something where you almost got to support your teams, support your team, and it doesn't become charity. I mean, this is a professional sports organization, but we gotta keep the CFL going.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting to see a lot like these players.
Hmm.
I mean, they're coming off a year of
Yeah.
not playing football. So it's going to be interesting to see how, I mean, if guys have switched teams or anything, you're coming out. I mean, the season just got announced, so they haven't had a training camp. Training camp's got to start soon. You're going to have a month and a half training camp,
With no
no
preseason
preseason,
games. Yeah.
and jump right into regular season. Like the first couple of weeks might be some pretty ugly football in all
Hmm.
reality because you're coming off a huge layoff and you're not going to even get used to the system.
Hmm.
But again, it's beggars can't be choosers. Just be happy there's
Yeah.
football.
Yeah.
And for something like the CFL, it like you said, it's not charity, but make sure to support it.
Hmm.
And it like we want the league to stay around. And I mean it's the longest running football league in North America.
Yeah. I mean, and also you talked about the players. It's an interesting choice. A lot of these players probably have some of the players, they left 2019, didn't know what to do 2020. They went into other careers. They couldn't practice, they couldn't stay sharp because you can't go to the gym, you can't go. You could barely. There were times in Ontario you could barely go to a public park to throw the football around.
Hmm.
And some of these guys went into other careers. Now they say, I've been fulfilled. I've been happy. I'm liking this change of pace for a year. But my job is saying you could go back if you like. We understand if you want to go back. The CFL is saying we'll have you back, but I don't know what to do. So I think there's a lot of people that really have a decision to make in this month, and it's an even harder decision when we don't know all the specific details. Like, we didn't have a schedule until yesterday or a couple days ago.
Yeah.
So it's really, everything's changing every day. We don't fully know who's going to be playing this season, what people want to do with their lives. It's just, from a
Yeah.
sports perspective, it's a fascinating thing. What happens when an institution
Hmm.
turns off the lights for a whole year? All the other sports, I mean, they at least had truncated seasons. They maintained their playoff. They postponed their playoffs and did them. But the CFL, I mean, it's almost, in one way, it's a blessing. Like, you didn't have to just turn off the lights halfway through a season. But
Hmm.
I mean, they had nothing last year, which was really unfortunate.
Yeah. And that, I mean, if the financial distress really comes to a head this year, I think we know they had talks with the XFL, that the president and leaders in the CFL met with the XFL leaders, and nothing really came public with that other than the fact that they were meeting, which both organizations were very okay to go public
Hmm.
that they met, especially The Rock kind of talking about his time in the CFL,
Hmm.
which was of course very brief and is now very public knowledge of how he got his start. So I think that's something that would be interested to see,
Hmm.
because as both leagues are in a tough spot financially, you could see some agreements, some working together. And people talk about full blown amalgamation, the two
Hmm.
leagues coming together. I don't think that happens. I don't necessarily think that would even be a good thing if it
No,
happened.
no.
I think, and then I mentioned this to you before the show. I think like best case scenario, I think most likely scenario is they play some exhibition games. I
Hmm.
think best case scenario, and for this they would have to, if the XFL stays in the beginning of February, they're
Hmm.
gonna have to either the CFL change their schedule or the XFL does. But after each season is done, you take the Grey Cup winner and the XFL championship winner, you stick them in a best 2 out of 3 for the kind of like the big champion, and
Hmm.
you play one. where you'd have 2 games under one set of rules, 1 game under the other set of rules, and you would flip year to year which league gets kind of home field advantage for the 2 sets of rules.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get to trade fan bases. You get to bring each fan base in. You get to tease them with the other set of rules to say, hey, how do you like this? You get to see the other players. You get kind of invested. So you can kind of trade off fans. You both work off of each other. And then it's got kind of the, like in Canada here, that is obviously very different, but with the Memorial Cup for the juniors.
I was going to bring that up. Yeah.
It's that extra feel where it's that extra thing that people want and that they're training for. And like, I think that would be something that it builds the sport. It brings in more fans. It brings in, for the CFL, it brings in American fans too, which is something that they've always struggled to do, which is, in all reality, for a football league to have any sort of massive success, like the success is there in Canada. The American fans coming in would put it over the top.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think the one problem with the bringing in American fans, I feel as if the real benefit, if we're going to sell the CFL to American fans, it would be, the selling point would be that the NFL hasn't started yet. Like, if the CFL is mostly running during the summer, the NFL hasn't started yet. We have pro. These are not exhibition. It's not preseason, which is going on in the NFL. These are real games with real stakes and high talent. And then you have the XFL taking on after the NFL season. I mean, if you run XFL and CFL parallel, you kind of lose a reason to go after that American market, because the big selling feature is that we're football when there's no other football on. I mean, there's American football going on. But what I would say is the intrigue to something like we'll call it a Memorial Cup-esque kind of super championship between the winners of the CFL and the XFL if they're running parallel. And the unique thing about that is the storyline is you have the oldest football league paired against the youngest. And that is a very interesting dynamic, and two parallel rule sets, one that really favors defense, one that really favors offense. You know, it's almost like a pairing to, we're mixing a bunch of sports here, but it's almost a National League, American League dynamic where one is defense, one is offense. And that is one of the central storylines to almost every World Series that baseball has. You know, and of course things are changing with the DH. We won't resurrect that debate here, but there's a lot of interesting things you can do that really honor old traditions and also create new ones at the same time and bring fans together. And, you know, if you can combine, I mean, that's a huge thing, not combine, but be a separate, two separate entities, but we're going to work together. We're going to be friends. We're not stealing each other's markets or anything. You've just doubled the league size of the CFL effectively in terms of what I'm going to be watching at, because this team is relevant to this team, even though it's a long separation before they possibly get together. And then, you know, all these connected. So now you take the 8.
And you know what you add into that too? Just like add the gambling. If you add that gambling element, you go full blown embrace it too. That pushes the Canadian crowd too, but the American crowd especially just pushes them further into it.
Yeah,
like you're saying there too.
And I mean, I think there's going to be strides on the gambling front. There is, I mean, sports.
They're working on laws.
But
Sports
but
Interaction,
OLG,
I believe, is the Toronto Argonauts sponsor. I believe they sponsor the Argonauts and the Tiger Cats. And I believe that they're working on getting single game betting into the CFL stadiums.
OLG is. I'm seeing ads now for. I think it's still the lottery ticket parlays, but I think they're pushing it more, which suggests to me that they're planning to do more with that. I think they've seen just how much money they're like. It's all like, how are we going to pay for the roads here? So,
I mean, at the end of the day, though, it's just for us, it's super exciting that CFL is back. It's something that, in all reality, I don't think we, as Canadians, we've never embraced it in the element that we should. And it took COVID for us to realize that we need to really, you know, when it's gone, you miss it type of thing. And like we said, we're going to be season ticket holders. So you can be guaranteed we're bringing CFL content and a lot of Argos content. And we're going to start next week with the CFL content. We got a interview with Ottawa Red Blacks starting QB Matt Nichols. We'll be recording, putting up next week. So stay tuned for that. Stay tuned for more CFL content. And for now, before the season starts too, also stay tuned for the UFC content because that's going to be coming pretty hot and heavy.
All right, everybody. Have a great week.
Make sure to like and subscribe.
I went down to Nashville, a guitar in the back. I was gonna make it big, make money by the sack.